Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day to check out today's video. Much appreciated. And today we got another old time story, which is sort of a sentimental favorite of mine. I'm going to share with you guys. I think some of you might enjoy it, some of you may not, some of you may love it. I'm not sure, but I'll just relay it to you anyway. And hey, before we get started real quick, I just wanted to give a quick reminder that on April 15th, Johnny and I have our next virtual seminar on fishthemoment.com. This is going to be a 3-hour seminar, 6 to 9 p.m. on post-spawn patterns. And Johnny's going to cover all the post-spawn offshore techniques and patterns. I'm going to cover all the stuff, shallow water post-spawn techniques. So it's going to be a really good interactive time. You guys can sign up for that on fishthemoment.com, along with checking out our lake map breakdowns, our on the water lessons, all of Johnny's electronic videos, and much more on there. So I appreciate you guys checking that out on fishthemoment.com. So anyway, let's get into today's story. And the story that I'm going to tell you guys is going to be one, something that happened that's going to stay with me. If I live to be 100, I'll still remember it like I was a little kid. It's sort of one of those type of deals. But it was in 1967. It was the bass that was really responsible for me, being a professional angler and having the passion for fishing. And I think a lot of people can sort of relate to this. I think everybody does when they're little. So here's my story. Back in the late 60s, like I said, I grew up in Joplin, Missouri. My dad still lives there. And every summer, we would go down to Table Rock Lake at a little mom and pop resort called Rod and Reel Resort, down in the Shell Knob area of Table Rock Lake. And, we'd take mom and dad would take our family, my sister and, my two aunts down there and usually a friend or two, my parents. And we'd go down there and spend 4 or 5 days on Table Rock Lake every summer, which I just couldn't wait. I mean, every year that we did it. So the year that we were down there in 1967, I was 6 years old. And this particular situation, how it laid out, was a dad and a good friend of his, Jack Thompson, who actually, the picture of Dad and Jack and the bass that I'm talking about is in the thumbnail in this video. You can see it in the thumbnail. But they had a trip. They were going to go out fishing in the evening. They usually fished in the evening and the morning, and the evening. And they would take me out with them usually in the morning. And like I said, I was 6 years old. They had a 16-foot Starcraft aluminum boat. It had an 18 horsepower Evinrude with a little trolling motor on the back end of it, which was a pretty nice rig back in 1967. And I thought it was just the greatest boat in the world. I mean, I was so proud that, my dad had that boat. And so anyway, one night well, first of all, let me tell you a little about the scenario about Rod and Reel Resort, where it's at. Rod and Reel Resort is, like I said, it's a little mom and pop resort in the Shell Knob area of Table Rock. And it's sort of setting up on a small bluff overlooking one of the coves down there. And the resort had a dock itself for everybody that was staying at the resort, probably like a 20-slip dock or something like that. And my earliest memories, I remember walking down to that dock and getting this whiff of fish smell that still stays with me today. When I smell fish, that you guys have probably smelled it on a dock too. It takes me back to that dock in 1967. And I remember, walking along the bank and looking down in the water from the dock and seeing big giant crawdads and perch and bass swimming around. So early memories of that. But anyway, Dad and Jack were getting ready to go out fishing one evening. They were going to go right about dark. They were going to go out fishing for a few hours, and they didn't want me to go with them. And I just cried my eyes out. It's like I couldn't believe it, and I was wanting to go so bad, and I was just crying that they wouldn't take me out, and I was really upset. So anyway, they went out fishing, for 2 or 3 hours. And I remember, I think they were going to come back in like at 11 o'clock. So Mom would take me down there to the dock about 11 o'clock and wait for them. And that particular night, it was 11 o'clock and I see them idling into the cove and I could see their lights on the boat coming in there. And they got in the dock and put the boat on the dock and everything. And Dad pulled up the stringer, and it was the biggest bass that I'd ever seen in my life. It's the bass that you see in that picture in the thumbnail here. That's the bass I'm talking about. And it was, I don't know how big it was. I'm guessing it was 7 or 8 pounder. spawned out. I do remember that, even though I was 6 years old. And I remember everything about that. When he pulled that bass out of the water and it sort of glistened in the lights off the dock, it was dark. I could see this huge bass glistening in the dark. And there's something about that moment that really had a big impact on me. I'm not really sure what it was. And then I started, looking in the boat, and I saw the tackle and everything, and Dad was telling me how he caught it. And he caught it on back then the main plastic worms were like creams and flip tail, and he caught this bass on, at the time, I'm guessing it's like a 7 or 8 inch, like a 7 or 8 inch flip tail purple plastic worm. And I remember he had a little beak hook on it, like a little gold type of a beak hook. That's what they used, for worms back then. And they threaded them on. They didn't hook them Texas rig. This was back in 1967, so he'd have this little gold beak hook that he threaded on this flip tail worm. And then I remember they took a little split shot and put the split shot right above the worm. And I remember vividly, it was bright blue monofilament line on a white Shakespeare spinning rod with a Mitchell 300 reel. I still remember that vividly. And, so he's telling me about, how they caught this bass. And the next morning they went out there and they took me out there where they caught it, which was like, it was like a pea gravel bank, a pea gravel cove. Pea gravel point, just about a mile or so away from Shell Knob. And I still fish it all the time, sort of a sentimental memory. But anyway, I remember that particular bass. It was so ceremonial because it was such a big bass that they brought it up to the cabin at the top of the hill. And this is back in 1967, you got to remember. There wasn't any catch and release back then. It was all catch and cook. So I remember they brought it up to the top of the hill. They gutted the bass, put it in a cooler, and we took it home with us. We were going home like the next day, so they brought this big 7 or 8 pound bass back home. And I remember we got home with it, and when they got it home, Dad and Jack, they put it down on a big board in the kitchen right by the sink and flayed this 7 or 8 pound bass out. And then I remember you cut the head off of it. We mounted the head, put varnish on it. That's what they used to do back in the day. They'd cut the heads off bass and varnish them and prop their mouth open with a stick and hang them up in the garage. So that's where that 7 or 8 pound bass came into. But anyway, for whatever reason, that bass, the whole event of it, the boat part of it, the Dad explaining how he caught it, seeing that bass, or something about that one fish that just ignited something in me. And it's like, ever since I saw that, all I wanted to do was bass fish. I wanted to bass fish every single second I could. And it's really odd how, something like that, that just clicks into something like that. And I think everybody out there has got the same story. I bet everyone that's watching this video that bass fishes, I bet you guys can go back into your childhood, or the earliest time that you bass fish. Some people didn't get a chance to fish when they were kids. They did later on, but I bet every single one of you out there can go back and tell me about a key bass, one trip, one bass, whatever, that really, just something clicked in your mind, and it just sort of got you on that road to, wanting to be a bass fisherman, and, got you watching this channel, got some of us fishing professionally for a living. But I'm sort of a sentimental dude when it comes to stuff like that. I really, cherish those memories from the early days. When I was a kid, I really didn't get to fish that much. My dad, he didn't fish that much. We'd go on vacation, like I said, at Table Rock once a year in the summertime. And when I was little, he might go fishing 3 or 4 times in a year with his friends, and they'd take me with them. So I never really got a chance to fish that much when I was little, but every single time, it just seemed like I just couldn't wait to go. It was just like my life revolved around those occasional trips, even though we didn't catch much. It's not like we went out and ripped them all the time. So, that's just looking back, it's just amazing how, some of those events stay with us when we're little more than others. And some people it doesn't register with them because, I've had a chance to fish with a lot of, kids, throughout the course of my career, taking them fishing or going fishing with their dad and them. And I see some kids that just are ate up with it. And then I see some kids that we go out there and we have one of those unbelievable days on the water, and it just doesn't, it's not a big deal to them. They can just, they'll forget about it the next day. So, basically what I'm saying here is that, if you're a bass nerd or a bass geek, like a lot of us are on this channel, it's a brotherhood, man. It is. A lot of people that aren't, like we are, they just don't get it. And, and that's okay. I think that some people are just wired like that and others aren't. But anyway, guys, just wanted to share that story with you with the thumbnail. I ran across that picture the other day, and it just brought back a lot of memories I wanted to share with you guys. So, and and now even this is how nostalgic it is to me. Anytime that I fish a tournament on Table Rock Lake, I make it a point to go in that cove, the Rod and Reel Cove, and I make it a point to fish that place where my dad caught that big bass, that gravel point. I don't care what time of year, I always make it. It's like a ritual of mine. I'll run 20 miles out of the way just to fish it. It's out of nostalgia or whatever like that. So that's just a little part of my world I wanted to share with you guys there. So anyway, thanks again, guys, for tuning into the channel. Much appreciated. Like I said, we're getting really close to hitting 30,000 subscribers. Probably going to hit it next week. And when we do, I'm going to be giving away that pair of Solar Bat sunglasses right here. Randy Blockett Signature Series Solar Bat sunglasses. Supply of Bridgeford beef jerky. So if you're interested in possibly winning that, all you got to do is subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop a comment, and maybe you guys can win it. So anyway, thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Much appreciated, and we'll be back soon with another one. See ya.